to Mike Martin Asks Again. This week, as always, I have an amazing guest for you guys. I know a lot of my audience love SEO. This guy loves SEO and he's fucking brilliant. I mean, last time I spoke to him was probably 2 years ago. So, it's a guy now. And we must have spent 2.5 hours on the phone. He was showing me loads of tricks and techniques and things that he does. And my mind was blown. So because of that, I asked him to come in here because I know he really knows what he's talking about. He's probably been in the digital marketing space for about 15 years. He's an expert in neuromarketing. I don't know if you know what that is. Neuromarketing tactics and SEO. He's the owner of an agency called Fusion Vine, recognized as one of Colorado's top SEO agencies. And basically, he spends his days helping companies succeed online, which is cool. His name is Brian Kato. Tell us who you are, my friend.
Hey, how's it going, Mike? Glad to be here today. This is a real honor. It's, as you mentioned, it's been a while. Probably at least, if not more than 2 years. I think we first met like COVID when that first thing kind of went down. But
was it COVID? Was it?
I think so. I want to say it was like maybe 2019, like mid or end of 2019.
So I was still in Spain.
Or beginning. Yeah, it nuts. It's been a while for sure.
Fucking hell, it has, hasn't it? And you just get old really fast.
I know. I feel like we lost a couple of years, and I was like, oh yeah, I've known Mike for like a couple of years. Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
It was. I think at the time, I think we met through Brian, and I got on a call with you, and we ended up talking for about 2.5 hours, and you showed me all sorts of tricks and stuff that we did. He actually, Patrick.
Yeah.
I don't know why I called him Brian. Maybe he looks like a Brian, really. I just never realised it before. You're Brian, but I met you through Patrick. He was on a few weeks ago, actually. Him and Gary. They were taking me through what it is they're doing. Now, I know you do some mega crazy shit with the stacking of the
sheets.
Of the Google Docs and the sheets and things like that. I mean, before we jump onto all that cool SEO shit, which I love, and I'll probably have you on here, and I promise an hour, but I mean, I usually promise try and keep it less than an hour, but usually when it's SEO, I never let you go.
Awesome.
But just tell us how you got started in this, because obviously, where did it all start? How did you get into SEO? What was your career post school? Where did it get started?
Yeah, so after high school and even in high school, I was really involved in music quite a bit. I was a bass player, frontman. I actually went to college for about a year for jazz theory. And so I thought music was going to be my life, and then decided I didn't want to be a broke fuck up, just playing music all the time, living from paycheck to paycheck and having, living off the dollar menu for 4 to 8 weeks at a time. So decided to go back to school, ended up going into business management. From there, found out that I actually was halfway decent at database design and web development. So my background is really kind of in the DevOps kind of thing.
You was naturally good at that shit, because that shit confuses the fuck out of me.
Yeah. Naturally, I get databases. I understand relational patterns and things like that. So for me, it was just kind of a shoe-in. I was like, all right, yeah, this works. I initially got in doing DevOps and website design development. And from there kind of fell into really, I would say, content marketing, very, if you want to call it white hat, really kind of dove into that. And then after working at an agency for probably about 5 years, I was like, man, we're doing all this content, but and while content is king, I always felt like we weren't quite getting the results that we should be getting. And, a lot of it came down to, some of these tactics that are deemed, gray or black or things like that, where link building, for one, Google gets into it and they're like, you shouldn't be building links, but actually it's a known thing that you kind of need to have links. Right.
Yep.
And so, for me, right. Even with content, are you internally linking, right? And so you're still linking. It's just, how are you going about doing it? So for me, that was really kind of a point of clarity and an aha moment when I understood you can't just write a blog. You have to actively promote it and market. Go figure, right? Surprise, surprise! You have to market your content.
Can you imagine, right? if every single person said, all right, Google says we're not supposed to send links anymore, right? So we all fucking stopped. Google won't be able to find fucking anything. It'd be like, what's next? What's being indexed? What's being put up? Because every single website is literally just getting put up on its own thing and not linking out to anything. It's like, it's kind of a double negative. I think that's what they call it. It kind of makes no fucking sense. So
absolutely,
they do talk some shit, don't they?
Well, the thing that the analogy that I have found that kind of works really well for it is like, yes, content is king. And if you're only focused on like these, like link manipulation or black hat or gray hat or any of that, it's the problem is that you miss out on the conversion aspect of it or actual quality, right? And this is where, like, as you mentioned, neuromarketing, I'm really into that kind of stuff where it's the psychology behind like what actually is going to make someone click. And if you don't have that, you're kind of stuck at a point where, sorry, we're diving right in here. We're going for it, Mike.
No, keep going. Yeah, I'll bring you back later. Don't worry.
Yeah. Where I think the issue is that like if you just focused on link building or manipulating the algorithm, you're going to get caught up where you don't get the conversion, you don't get that click, which means you have to do twice as much link manipulation and the work there. Which, if you're still not getting the click, now you're needing 4, 8. It becomes exponential at that point. And then you do start playing a very risky game. On the other hand, if you're only focused on content, and content is the only thing that you can do, you're not actively building links, or you're not actually actively promoting, doing anything like that. It's kind of like having a Bugatti in your driveway with no gasoline in it, right? Looks great. You can take some great selfies, like, hey, look at this awesome car I've got, but you're not going anywhere too fast. It just sits there.
Especially if you're trying to rank on a national basis. If you're trying to rank local, it's pretty easy. And that's kind of where I focus a lot of time on on local, because it's so, and I'm so lazy.
Dead easy. Yeah.
But if you're hitting national, you do need to focus heavily on both and fresh content. And I've seen. What's your opinion on? Let's jump straight in. What's your opinion on AI content now? Do you think it worked? Do you think it's going to work long term? I'll tell you what I think afterwards. In fact, what I've kind of found out recently, which is scary as fuck. What do you think?
So my experience with it is push button AI is hit and miss. Like if you're going into Jasper or I know there were some issues with things like Article Forge a while ago. But if you're just going in there and be like a chat GPT, like write me an article, blah, 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 and you're not doing anything to it, I haven't seen great results with that. It can still rank, which has been interesting, but I haven't seen phenomenal results. What we found is that if we go in and we do kind of it's probably like a 60-40 blend where we have 60% AI, 40%, like I'll go back in and I may tweak a couple things. Maybe throw in like a bullet list or add in like my own professional spin on, let's say we're in, a YMYL, right? We're talking like finance. So I may get a couple quotes from from a client or whatever, get some like leading expert opinion on something. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit of variation. That way it gives us something to go off of, right? But it could be 60-40. It could even be as high as like 80-20 from what I've seen. AI content will still rank. However, push button AI, I have seen issues with. Personally, I love AI. I embrace the hell out of it. I love it.
Yep. I use it for most of my email. Well, I don't. My copywriter uses it for most of our email marketing and stuff like that. But what we found is, and we found this in Google as well first.
Yep.
So if it's developer.google.com, it basically says Google doesn't have a problem. I can't remember the exact wording, right? But basically what it says to you is Google doesn't have a problem with AI. Google doesn't mind you using AI, right? But then it says, and it's not against our terms, unless, right?
Yep.
Unless this is the content that you're writing is designed to rank, right? So basically, this is how it words it. So it basically says we don't give a fuck. We're not going to penalize you. In other words, we're not going to de-index you for writing AI content. But what we are going to do is not rank it. So it's like, what the fuck? So but we've based it, but we've done quite a lot of testing, and I've been speaking to quite a lot of people now who are doing SEO, and they're doing similar tests with the AI stuff. And recently, we've started to see a lot of the AI content getting de-indexed. Now, my team have been working on it to try and figure out what it was, and it looks like pretty much everything that's coming out of AI at the minute is connected to a mathematical algorithm, and that's why you can detect it.
Exactly.
So we've basically gone in and completely fucked up the algorithm and randomized it and created a button on our software that says "Make Human," and we're finding that that's working really, really, really well.
Absolutely. If you've ever messed with Glitter or glitter.io,
nope.
It's gltr.io. A fantastic website. And it really only works for about GPT-2, GPT-3 and 4. It starts to do funky stuff with it. But the point is that what's really interesting about it is it's exactly what you're talking about. Basically, AI and generative text is nothing more than auto-suggest on steroids, right?
Yep.
So if you put in content and we say something like, "Hi, Mike, my name is," it's going to assume that your next word is probably your name, right? With a fair degree of confidence that that's what should come next. No different than if you put in a string of or an entire paragraph, like the next word that should follow this should be the following word with a 70% degree of confidence. 60% we think it could be this word. 40% could be this word, right? And you start to build out those mathematical equations just as you're talking about. It's when you go in there and you start throwing in little wrenches into that algorithm where they're saying, it should probably be this word. But Mike, you went in and you added in these 3 words that we weren't anticipating on seeing.
Yep.
That has to be human, right? And so that's where I find the math behind it really kind of fun and interesting, right? Again, looking at those relational databases where we're looking at a percentage, and if you can be one of those things that kind of skirts that percentage, we were expecting the next word to be the with an 80% degree of confidence, but you went in and you put in something completely different. Great. You're going to rank.
Yes. Non-English speaking writers are ranking much better than English nowadays, because if you write it and you've got an English degree, you're fucked.
Right.
My content ranks like crazy because I can't spell.
Right.
So I'm like, this is definitely not a machine. This guy's drunk. But no, we've been finding a lot of that, and we've kind of, that's what we did with our rewriter. We're not our rewriter, but we've got a thing that we have a rewriter so you can go. I can go nick your content off your page.
Yep.
Paste it into my software, click rewrite, and it'll automatically rewrite it and retain the meaning. So, like back in the day when everybody used to go to the first page of Google, find all the content that's ranking that you really, really like, pull it all into a content brief, drag all the meta titles, descriptions, and all the other bullshit into a big content brief, rewrite it, retain the meaning because Google loves it, and then put it on your own website and you're good. That's kind of what our software does without you having to go to the first page of Google and do that shit.
Page rewriter, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, you've heard of it. Well, we've added a new algorithm change into it now where you can click a button that says "Make Human." So you can go in and put in a keyword, and it thinks it's an SEO, and it writes the same as any other AI writer. So you may as well write it on ChatGPT and copy and paste it in. But then when you click the "Make Human" button, it rewrites it, retains the meaning, but doesn't necessarily 100% always make sense. And what we've found is, if we try and make it super accurately make sense every single time, then the percentage of written by a human that it shows up is like fucking ridiculously low. Whereas if you get it a little less accurate but it retains the meaning, so you're going to go in and look and think, I'm just going to tweak this, and this, it comes out 100% human almost every single time. And we're getting really, really good results with the rankings with it.
That's awesome.
But we're having to put it onto old sites at the minute to do the testing. And the reason we're doing that is because obviously if you put articles up on old sites, they rank a lot quicker, and then you can do the testing a lot faster. But we're not doing single variable testing because unfortunately how the fuck do you single variable test content? Have you got any, have you ever?
So interesting. I actually was having a discussion with a couple colleagues the other day about this. And I think that in general, it's really tough to do single variable because if you have single variable, it works within the vacuum, right? Like you could do an isolated test where you've got within the vacuum of this particular website, it works, right? You've adjusted one or two things. You've determined, yeah, single variable, it works. But that's not how Google's operating, right? They're operating on multiple little variables. So
Yep.
you kind of have to deal with it in the wild a little bit. The one place that I do see single variable helping is kind of determining like null tests or determining that like this didn't work in a single variable on multiple occasions. It's probably not a signal that we can count on accurately unless it's combined with other stuff, right? So if you had two variables that then moved the needle, well, then you could kind of say, okay, if we adjust one or the other, does it move the needle? If not, it probably isn't a ranking factor, right? But I tend to use it more for that kind of purpose as opposed to saying, having the keyword density of 5% versus, 3% is definitely a ranking factor. I tend to look at it more from a contextual and topical relevance standpoint, just personally.
Yeah. That I don't think that ever really worked. I think that was always bullshit, but it was like it's like this bullshit fake news that gets brought out into the SEO industry. And it's like, oh, you've got to do this and you can't have this on your page and you can't have your text a different color because Google knows, and stupid shit that people started to tell everybody's going to make it rank and not rank and everything else. And I think the keyword density, it's like spun content with mass page stuff. Everybody's like, oh, you've got to spin, you've got to spin, you've got to spin. We did, huge tests on this, right? Because everybody talked me into incorporating spun content into Magic Page plugin, and it took them years to get me to do it, right? And there was a guy that had the only person who agreed with me. We actually fell out. Directory Optimizer Pro, I think his tool was called. But he was the only one who agreed with me. You don't need spin text. You don't need spin text. So we did a massive test on this, right? And we put thousands and thousands of pages out on across all of our sites. And you're talking, I think it was something like fucking 98% of the non-spun content, even when we were building websites on a national basis, were outranking the spun stuff every single time. And the spun stuff just wasn't working. And it kind of, I spoke to Kyle Roof and I said to him, this is the result we're getting. Why? And he kind of explained it to me in a way of saying, look, if you're selling a TV, right? Yep. And you've got 5 different sizes of that TV, and each page of that television has got identical content on it, right? Except for the size of the telly. He said all of those will rank because all of those pages are relevant because it's a different product, but it's the exact same content. And then, so I basically, it kind of got me thinking. It was like, holy fucking shit, we're all idiots, right? We're basically, if you look at an electrician, right? An electrician drives to fucking this town over here. Like, let's say we're in Manchester. He drives to Rochdale, which is about 5 or 6 miles away, and he does all these different services. But if he drives over this way in a slightly different direction to Oldham, then he's going to do a ton of different services in a different way, and his content's going to be... And it's like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, it doesn't.
The product remains identical. The content remains identical. The only thing that needs to change is the geolocation data, longitude and latitude data and shit like that you put in the back of the page and your schema and everything for the location. And when Kyle mentioned it to me like that, I was like, oh my God, I let people draw me into this spun content bullshit. And we even put a spinner in our software tool because people still use it for spam. Or not spam, but for like what you do with the Google Docs and you stack the shit out of them.
Yeah, it's more about quantity, right? Yes. Interestingly enough, as you're talking about spinning and stuff, we have one site right now that is 100% plagiarized. Like I didn't adjust anything. It's 100% plagiarized. I literally copy pasted. It's a mass, automated mass page with it, but it is literally 100% plagiarized, and we have over 3,000 pages indexed.
Mate, I've done that so many times.
It's crazy.
So what we
people are like, oh, unique content. You got to have unique. Nah, you don't.
Definitely not be the same. Well, we've done something similar with mass page sites, and what we've done is we've not used plugins to create them. We've created them ourselves using HTML.
Sure.
But then what we've done is we've got the same site, moved it from one server to another server, and just changed the central location. Right. So like
Yep.
this one's London, this one's Birmingham, and there's like fucking 100,000 pages on these things, or 40
It's
something thousand
awesome.
pages, the whole country, right? And some of these sites have got like about 70% index, and we're not changing anything. We're just
Yeah.
changing the central location. So the linking structure changes from the center and outwards, but they overlap both of each other because Birmingham and so the pages are right, and we're getting 2 and 3 listings on the first page of Google with the same content. So it's not quite as accurate as everybody says, especially when you're ranking for smaller areas.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people tend to overcomplicate. It's the core concept, especially as you mentioned in local, people tend to overcomplicate the heck out of it. And it really it doesn't need to be that way. As long as you have your geolocation, depending on what your competition is or how spammy the niche, you may need to, light a fire under its ass a little bit. But in general, like it really isn't that difficult to rank, for things. And I think that, for me, the other thing is also, we talked about links, right? I think links are probably, like, in my opinion, probably one of the like most overcomplicated things in the SEO industry. Everyone's all about like quality links and you've got to have things like that. And it just cracks me up because I mean, you could literally do a Google Doc and you technically have a quality link. You could do a
The internet's
slide
built on
deck.
spam.
Yeah.
The internet's built on fucking spam. If
Yeah.
I get it, you do. I have seen a difference between relevance nowadays. I can build a site and
Sure.
put six relevant links to it, and those 6 relevant links will outrank it than if I was to go and do the Google Doc stacks and I was to create a million,
Sure.
right? So
Yep.
relevance is but
100%.
I get what you're saying about that. But what we do, I don't know if I've ever spoke to you about the way we do it. You know what a single niche PBN is?
Yep.
Right. So you get how. So what we do is I'll build
It's all
50
topically
sites.
relevant. Yeah.
Yes, I'll build 50 websites, all say for plumbers, and then they'll all interlink. Not all interlink, but I keep them in triangles of like 7 to 10 sites. They'll all link into each other, and they'll rank the top one up here. And then I'll do another triangle, another triangle, another triangle, another triangle. But every single site has its own phone number, its own form, and it basically, even if Google does a manual check and it looks, it's like, that's a real site, and it's generating real traffic, and it's designed for
Yep.
people who want plumbers in this location, and for them to be linking out to this other plumbers that's based over here. If you're in Birmingham, use us. If you're in London, we recommend you use this guy. It's
Yep.
completely relevant, and that's how we build our single niche PBNs, and they rank like a motherfucker without actually building huge numbers of links.
So the way that I actually do Google Sites and Google Stacks now is actually more along the lines with your method. So as far as like doing quantity, what I found is it's exactly what you've described, where if I can do it more topically relevant, or like any of the sheets or docs or anything that I'm doing there they're on point. We're covering like we've gotten into things like EAV tables, entity attribute values. We'll go into things that are very topically relevant.
What's an EAV table?
Entity attribute and value.
Okay.
So we're going into like if we're talking about a particular entity, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we'll do is we'll go in, we'll talk about the specific attributes for that or the expected values from said, entity, right? We'll go into stuff like that, or we'll go into topical relevance, right? Or not the website topical relevance, but actually going into like a topical authority type of context, right? So what we'll do is like any of the sheets that we've got, any of the docs, any of the like stacking methods, cloud stacks, fill in the blank, right? Anything that we're doing for link building has to be topically on point with whatever the thing is. So exactly like with your single niche PBNs, what I've been doing with our stacking mechanisms or the methodology behind that is we'll go in and we'll cover a single topic, but we just like bury that topic with as much contextual information as we possibly can. And then what we'll do is that we layer it on top with additional contextual relevance and additional contextual content that's very streamlined to that specific subject matter. And then if we need to, then we go out and we'll build a secondary like bolt-on PBN or a silo type thing. We'll build that in, and it's going to be its own topical cluster based on that as well. So I would agree. Like spamming will get you so far, but you can do a lot less with a lot more topical relevance, right? You don't need nearly as much oomph behind it.
Yeah, I mean, we're finding that we're getting similar, like we've done a lot of the stacking stuff you've talked about with the Google Docs and stuff. We're finding you can build a lot more topical relevance a lot faster using blog posts. So basically, if just targeting at one page, if you've got like one page on your site, we'll kind of tier the blog posts. So the blog posts become a triangle. So you'll have, let's say I've got a plumbing website and there's one page in Manchester I'm trying to rank.
Sure.
We'll create the blog posts underneath it that will have 4 or 5 different subjects about something that's been done. Then we'll drop it even further and we'll do like sub-subjects as blog post pages underneath that one. So there's a triangle following up, and then we can use the Google stacking strategy and a little bit more spammy links right on these pages that we don't give a shit about further down here. Yeah. And we kind of build the big triangle that obviously all points up to that one page. Is that kind of what you're doing with because I know Patrick was telling me you stack them fucking like 10, 20, 30 deep and stuff like that, don't you?
No, actually, so my stacking strategy is I tend to go shallower or smaller stacks, but I do more bolt-ons. So, for example, one of the things that I do is I'll interlink my sheets together, so it's not just a single blast all at one. But what I'll do is I'll take, we'll call it like, we'll daisy chain or we'll do link wheels throughout the course of multiple sheets, multiple docs, slides, whatever the case might be, right? Even cloud sites or, standalone WordPress sites. The thing I tend to look at is more topical and entity, brand driven. But what we'll do is I'll go to, so like 1 to 2 to 3, 3 back to 1. We'll do a link wheel, right? Then what I'll do is I'll then go into 1, and I may build on A, B, and C, which is its own little hub based on 1. 2 will go in, we'll get C, D, E. 3 will go in and we'll get like F, G, H, right? So we're building out a tiered structure exactly like you're talking about. If I need to, then I can go into A, B, and C and create like A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, so on and so forth. So what my experience with that has been is the more you stack out, I'm not a big fan of doing like more than about 7 to 13 deep. Yeah. And this goes back to the idea of PageRank and the way that PageRank flows. But my experience has been if we're stacking 100 deep just because we can, it's really unnecessary because by about 7 to 13, you're losing so much PageRank that it's kind of a moot point, right? It doesn't make any sense to continue doing that. You're actually wasting time and energy on that kind of a thing. So again, I keep my stuff pretty tight as far as the internal linking structure, but I do a lot of like topic hubs, if you will. So kind of like with your PBN method, the PBN method will go into the 3 kind of pyramid structure. Underneath the 3, we'll do 3 to 7 underneath each one of those 3. Underneath each one of those, then we branch it out into another, 7 to 13. Once we get out to about tier 4, tier 5, gloves are off. I'm probably doing GSA at that point.
Yeah, because just fire thousands of shit links to the bottom of them. Because you can't break a Google doc, really, can you? How fast are you seeing the needle move then? If you let's say you, I don't know if you've tried this, but if you built one, is that you or me?
That's me.
Right,
I apologize. My thing is like right across from me. It's out of reach. I can't do the Gen MI trick, but it's off. We're good.
All right, you cool?
Yeah, we're good.
So I don't know if you've ever tried this, right? Actually building out. So, and I've never tried it, but when you were saying it, then I was thinking, do you know what? I'd love to figure out with this, right? Is you build these because everybody says that Google kind of indexes itself regularly, like every 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever it is. I don't know the exact fucking number, but actually building the triangles out, so building your linking structure out, but never actually pointing it to So there's no objective. All the only objective, and you've probably done this, but the only objective is to build a stack of docs all connected together that have relevance in a specific subject. And you're not looking to say, okay, I'm going to use this to point to that particular site or that particular site, but I just want to build, like, let's say I want something that's super topically relevant on boiler installation. So I'm going to do 30 different documents all about boiler installations. I'm going to start connecting them all together, and I'm not going to do fuck all else with them or point any of the top ones at anything else yet, and then point it to after it's all finished and it's done and maybe a week in and you've built all the relevance. How quick do you think the needle would move on a website doing something like that?
We've actually tested that. It's about a week.
So even though Google index it's within 30, 40 minutes, takes it about a week for it to start
to really kind of work through what I've seen and move the needle on. Because I mean, even though it indexes itself, it crawls it. Well, I wouldn't say even index; it crawls itself, and that's probably it may be splitting hairs, but it's a really big distinction that I'd like to, I like to make sure people are aware of. Is it crawl versus index, right? Like a lot of times, even with sheets, I don't really care about index because it's not something that I want out there for the masses, right? I do care about crawl though, because I want to make sure
it knows it exists.
Pushing. Yeah, it knows it exists and we can push power. The thing that I would say on that though is typically in about a week, that's about what I see when when we have something that's published, it moves, and then we actually start realizing the results, or we're being able to see that outside of like the ecosystem that we've built. So give or take a week, 7 to 10 days, we'll say.
We're in the process of building an agency. Okay,
cool.
I've not worked for clients for years and years and years. I've always refused to do it. I've always refused to think it. But we've got a team of staff downstairs now, and I've obviously got the expertise to rank and to do all this other crazy stuff, right? But I'm not going to do what a lot of agencies do and say, okay, I'll work for absolutely anyone. I'll do anything that you want. I'm going to do exactly what I did with the locksmithing. I'm going to become a specialist in a certain niche, and I'm going to only chase that niche, and I'm going to chase it where I live. And once I've finished the county where I live, and I've got every single area sewn up and thingied, I'm then going to move further afield, right? And I'm going to spread across the country like a wave across. I've not even chose the industry yet.
The microwave.
I was thinking, yes, yeah, spread it like a wave, yeah. Fucking hell, it's been years since I've taught that, but yeah. And then basically my plan. But no, in fact, forget my plan. Fuck my plan. It doesn't matter. But what it is what I was just thinking when you were saying that, and the reason I was asking is I don't use. I know. Do you still use Patrick's tool for it?
I do. Yeah. It's one of the tools in my arsenal. But yeah, I will still use that. There are other methods that I employ as well.
Okay, I won't mind hearing about some of the methods, and I'll tell you why first. Because what I want to do is I'm going to choose my niche in the next few weeks with my Callum downstairs. Callum, once we grow the agency, he's going to run the agency for me, and we're going to employ staff underneath him. But what I was thinking is, once I've selected a niche, I could then start. The process will be, obviously, we're looking for clients, and we're going to do calls and various other crazy shit that works to get people through the door. But my plan would be to create hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of topically relevant blocks of these things early. So I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these topically relevant. So I know we can go into one Google sheet, say, right, fire a link to that one for that and a link to that one for that. And what's going to happen is within a week, they're going to start me. So when I take over a client's website, or when we build a client's website, I know I can go in and say, right, let's use 4 of these stacks that we've already got saved up.
Yep.
To point to here. So we'll point this one now, wait 4 weeks, point another, wait 4 weeks, point another. Because I don't like putting a lot of links on all at once. I think consistency is very important with long-term rankings. But that's that's why I asked you that question, because I thought that I'll be able to use straight away as soon as I step into this niche. If I'm ranking someone else's sites rather than us building them, because we've started building an agency site recently, and within like fucking a few days, I mean, these guys are supposed to be able to rank websites, and within a few days the site's already hitting page 1 of Google. In fact, within a few weeks, it's already hitting page 1 of Google for local relevant targeted keywords that have got things to do with PPC, that have got things to do with SEO, that have got things to do with email marketing, social media marketing, and all that shit. And I'm like, and all we've done is the content. We've not even started the link building. We've got like 500 or 600 sites that we've put on one side at the minute, which a different guy's building for me. But in the footer of all those sites at the minute, there's no links in them, right? And I know people say don't use footer links, but the footer links is going to say site by More Leads Local, which is the name of the agency. Yeah. And it's so we're going to start dripping them in probably one a week, every single week, and targeting all the different areas that we're going after. So within a matter of months, so we're building the full agency out online, like a big, massive project before we even pick up a client. Anyway, let me slow down and come back. What techniques could I use besides using Patrick's? And the reason I'm saying besides is because I don't use a Windows machine, and I won't use fucking a Windows machine because I hate them. What are the strategies? What are the softwares that are out there that I can do the same automation without me having to go out and get my team to build these things at mass?
So one of the things that I do is, Patrick keeps hitting me up about this as well, but there's an advanced kind of methodology that I use when it comes to sheets. You can build out the sheets manually. That's not a problem at all. I was recently into or was given a shout out on Brock Meisner's course because I have a sheet that it basically does a lot of that stuff manually as well. And so one of the things that you can do, I mean, you can always do it longhand, right? Just because someone asks you to do division or multiplication doesn't mean, you need a calculator, right? You could do it longhand. It just takes a little bit more time. And so that's one of the things that I tend to do is like, I like to, being the data nerd that I am, and again, like understanding databases and all that, like really geeky shit that I'm into, I like to understand like the guts of it, right? This works, why? And how does it work? So in understanding, like, yes, you could do it manually. It takes a little longer, but using things like the concatenate function, VLOOKUP function, defining your cells, things like that, you can totally do it. Like everything that Backlink Factory does, you can totally do by yourself. The software just helps facilitate like streamlining that a little bit, right?
It makes it so easy. I've used it. I flatly refuse. I've got 1, 2, 3 Macs in here right now, just in my own private office.
So what I would do personally is fire up a Hetzner server, virtualize it, and use your Mac to log in using Apache Guacamole.
I've got a virtual server set up. In fact, I think I still got one running. I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore. What are them two brothers called that had that link building tool as a rapid change of subject? What were they called? Do you remember?
Oh, what was it? I'm drawing a blank for it, man.
I'm sure I've still got a server off them too as well from fucking years ago. They used to spawn it anyway.
So
another story.
What I would look at is, so I've set this up for a few clients, but Apache Guacamole is probably what I would recommend for something like that, because you can access that virtual machine in a browser window. So you would just fire up Chrome or Firefox or whatever, go to a website, log in, and boom, you're into your virtual server.
Well, all right. Let me write that down. I know it's on the podcast, but I'm going to write it down because
it's that good. Yeah, Apache Guacamole.
Yeah, right. Check this out. You know, like I said, I can't spell, and people don't realize it, right? Check this out. This is how I've spelt guacamole. I have no fucking idea how to spell guacamole.
That's pretty big. Yeah, you have an extra K in there, but that's pretty damn close.
It says more like guacamole or something. Anyway, I'll figure that out. I wrote it and I looked and I thought, that's definitely not a real word. But I will, that says guacamole.
Guacamole is fantastic because you can actually access all of your RDP remote servers, Linux servers, anything like that within a web browser. So you just fire up Chrome, go to a website, you're in,
and then I can I can install Backlink Factory, because that's something that I used to use a lot when I had separate PCs and shit set up, but I couldn't use Parallels. It drove it just did my head in.
This is accessing a website is all you're essentially doing.
And then it stays running hidden on their servers, so you don't need, you log out as soon as you close the browser. It just carries on doing what it's supposed to do. You need to keep it switched on all day. And wow, okay, that's absolutely brilliant.
That's absolutely we may need to set up a call for that.
Yes, and then I've got to show my team how to do it. That's another thing. But the thing is, like you've said, I can't not use automation because I've got in-house staff on an hourly rate building these things, and it's like, how many can you build in an hour? If you're doing it manually, you can't. Whereas doing it with Battling Factory, you can build hundreds, thousands in minutes.
So, and speaking of automation, so the other component that I will use, and did a charity webinar recently for this, but the thing that I would also recommend is looking at ChatGPT for Sheets or ChatGPT for Excel. There are two plugins that you can look at there, but we're leveraging ChatGPT in that capacity. A lot of people are just going, to the ChatGPT online. They'll like create the dialogue, go back and forth, stuff like that, right? One of the things that we've really leveraged and built quite heavily into our current systems are taking spreadsheets and leveraging that with ChatGPT. Okay, so we can get ChatGPT to populate a lot of that. That's where a lot of these like entity tables, things like that, how we're getting a lot of that is we'll go in and we'll actually get ChatGPT to create a decent output for us.
What's the plugin called?
So the Google Sheets one is, what is it? It's GPT for Sheets and Docs, or ChatGPT for Sheets and Docs. It's available in the Chrome Web Store. And then
on the
Excel,
Chrome Web Store.
Yeah.
I'm looking on ChatGPT's actual plugin store.
Yep. It interfaces directly with Google Docs.
So I've gone at the ChatGPT 4. I'm looking, I've dropped down to the it's actually in the Chrome store, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah. So if you just Googled ChatGPT for Sheets and Docs, you'll see it. It's right there. You can install that. You'll need to have your Open API or your OpenAI API. You'll need to have that installed, but you can go between like DaVinci 3, ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 Turbo, and GPT 4.
Yeah, there's so many cool fucking things out there now, ain't there?
I know, right? It's
how are you using ChatGPT to rank shit? Have you got any cool tips on that, on what you've been doing?
It all comes down to your prompt. So one of the ways that we're doing this is it's a variation on actually a video I'd seen Matt Diggity put together, and it was essentially
brilliant shit. Him, doesn't he?
He does.
Following him for years, and some of his stuff, it's like, how the fuck did you think of that?
So the variation, and you can automate a lot of this in Sheets. But basically, what you do is Diggity had a thing where it was like, come up with ChatGPT, write me 10 unique semantically related keywords to SEO, right? It would go in and it does this, right? And then what we've ended up doing is, so we build out a sheet that not only takes the entity, like entities that are closely related to it. So I may run like a Quora report or something like that, get a bunch of entities, run it through the first 10. But I built out a sheet that then iterates that. So each one of those, like 1 through 10, we then do that, the PBN style, the pyramid that you were describing. Number 1 on the output from SEO, it may give me like SEO consulting, SEO agency, how to SEO. It'll give me a lot of those particular types of terms, right? What we would do is we'll recursively go back in, and then I say for item number 1, give me 10 more topics based on that. Item number 2, give me 10 more items based on that. Item number 3, give me 10 more based on that. So we can go through and we exponentiate a lot of what we're doing as far as topic creation. Then what we do is we'll do interlinking within our sheets. So I may have a prompt in cell A1. And then with ChatGPT for Sheets or ChatGPT for Excel, Excel just tends to work faster. You don't have the lag that you typically do with Sheets or Docs because it's running natively and not in the cloud. But what we'll end up doing is we'll then take those prompts, we'll create a concatenated prompt. We'll do search and replace or do like substitute, which is another function native to Sheets. And so we're able to mass manipulate a lot of these prompts that are coming out and come up with like a 6-month content plan in about 2 hours.
Wow. And then obviously then you can just automate the whole process of obviously.
Then we throw it into a tool like Page Rewriter and we're off to the races.
Wow, fucking hell. That's genius. Do you do any like SEO training or SEO coaching and shit like that where people
I've been hit up multiple times on that. I do some coaching. I do that kind of on a one-to-one basis. It's something that I've looked into creating more of a group. I'm involved in so many groups though that like I know I'm in your Facebook group and a few other things, but it's one of those things I thought about just dropping, some like, here's a little training on this, here's a little training over there. But yeah, it's something that even my wife keeps hitting me up about. She's like, you should do training.
Mate, you should. I remember the first time we spoke, right? I think we probably were on for about 2.5 hours. Yeah. I think we got on to talk about something. Patrick actually he introduced us because he said, I'll get Brian to show you how to use it because he's like the fucking man when it comes to using. I think it was Backlink Factory or one of the factories. And we got on it and we ended up sat on for like 2.5 hours chatting about and some of the shit he was doing, it was like amazing. And I was like, what the fuck, man? You think differently. You think like a computer programmer, but you're an SEO and it's like, it just fucking works. But the reason I asked then is you definitely should, do some one-on-one or group coaching. Group SEO coaching would be good because you don't charge as much then. Because like if you're doing one-on-one coaching, you've got to charge $250 an hour minimum. Whereas if you're doing group coaching, you can charge a monthly subscription.
Exactly.
And then you can have 50 people paying $100 a month each, and then they come in and they can all ask the questions, and you just run a training every single week, and then they can ask you stuff. I think something like that, mate, because there's not many people who are not like. There's a lot of guys who are in the public eye, but don't kind of know what they're talking about, and they charge a hell of a lot of money for these type of training courses, and then there's people like you that not a lot of guys necessarily know about. Who kind of just stay under the radar, and you have all these fucking Bruce Lee tricks that it's like the 1-inch death punch for the SEOs. It's brilliant. But yeah, anyway, I definitely think you should do something like that.
Absolutely.
Because the level of your knowledge is. I mean, you've got an agency as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I do. Yep. Yeah, we have a really small team. We're again based here in Colorado, but yeah, we've got kind of a smaller team. We haven't niched down completely, just because like a lot of the clients, like I've got about 3 different verticals that we tend to work within. One of them, home service. Surprisingly, psychology. I have a couple of psychology clients that they've been really great to work with. One of them, the AI content, kind of circling back to our conversation about that, we've had like it's like a 400% increase in their traffic on primarily AI like focused content.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, when you're working with a psychologist, you end up going on thinking, I'm going to have to put this guy's bill up, and you end up putting it down because they just talk you in, and you're like, how do they do that shit?
No, it's been really fun because they're very collaborative. I have been very fortunate in the clients. They've been super, super awesome. I'm like, here are some things that we've done some research. We've done some AI, topic discovery. Here's what I think we should write about. And they're like, awesome, run it. Let's go for it. And, we've seen that the results based on the prompts that we're doing, the spreadsheets that we've kind of developed, we're seeing some really, really good results from that. And I would attribute a lot of that to just, again, that whole idea of like topical relevance and topical domination, where we're looking at this. And if we have a specific topic, we're covering it from A to Z. And it's just, we're attacking it from all different angles, multiple viewpoints on a particular topic. It works really, really well.
I think that's why home services is so easy. Like if you've got an SEO agency and you don't do home services, you're a fucking idiot because like if you've got a plumber, roofer, electrician, builder, locksmith, any home services business, right? Most of them businesses are set up by somebody who goes out on the tools and starts off the business. They're very entrepreneurial, so they end up growing it and expanding it and getting teams around them. But when you put them in front of a computer, they're like, nah, leave me alone. And what I've spent 15 years learning about electronics and electrical shit and stuff like that. I am not going to sit and write an article a week on my website about some bullshit to do with electrics. So the guys that don't use decent SEOs and don't do content marketing as well as link building and all the rest of it are in a situation where it's so easy to rank in those industries. You can literally jump on somebody's website and say, you know what, I'm just going to add a blog a week to this, and within 6 weeks they're going to start seeing results, and within 6 months they're going to be the number one website in the area, and I've not even had to build a link.
Yeah,
which
absolutely
is cool, and that's the psychology really side of it, isn't it?
That goes back to the whole content side of it, where it's like, if you have good content, you require less links to get it to rank, right? If you have those natural signals coming through, where it's like Google gives you there's a lot of really fun tricks. There's some styling things that, like, we'll have to set up another call, but there's some styling tricks that we use to inject in geo-relevance that is it's 100% white hat, completely above board. I'm not hiding anything, but it's the way that we're using span classes to aesthetically give it a different look. And it's more of a design trick that I learned. But you can use span classes with different font styling or font sizing to essentially inject in geo keywords into the page. It looks beautiful, works like a charm, because now you have those geo terms on there, but it may not, the issue that we tend to have with a lot of our clients, especially some of the higher paying clients, is they don't want, like, Manchester locksmith services or, something like that. They might want to have like locksmithing services or, getting you in when you get locked out kind of a thing. And we're able to kind of inject in some of those geo keywords using stylistic kinds of things. And again, 100% white hat. We're not hiding anything. All we're doing is we may change the font type or the font size so that it may be script instead of like a serif font, or script instead of a sans serif.
What do you use to tell you where to do that, or is it guesswork? Because I know a tool that actually does it, and I've used it for years.
I'm hand coding. I'm a nerd, man.
So it's guesswork, because I remember, I can't remember who it was I was talking to, but I remember years ago chatting to somebody, and we was having a big in-depth discussion about SEO, and we kind of came to the conclusion that anybody who tells you they know what Google wants is lying, right? Anybody who says Google wants this, you can get experience and say, I've tested and I've done this, and this, and it works, right? But 3 months from now, it might not work, right? And so anyone who says today that they're the best SEO and they know it's guesswork, it's like, I was referring to it the other day, it's like historians, right? Historians are great storytellers, right? Because they get a few bits of data and then they add up and it becomes a fact. And really, it's not a fucking fact. And it's the same with SEOs. The great storytellers in a lot of cases, because they say, Google wants this, and this. And it's like, how do you know? The only way to know what Google wants for a specific keyword in a specific location is to go to the first page of Google in that location for that keyword and analyze sites like yours that are on the first page of Google. And if you want to know even to a better extent, if you're trying to rank for a small town, go to a major city and do the keyword search in that major city and see sites like yours that are ranking there. And that's the only way. And it works out of a lot of analysis, and you've got to do competitor analysis and all the rest of it. That's the only way to know exactly what they're looking for. And you check what backlinks they've got, and you check how deep the tiers go on the linking, and you check the content, and you go through all the crazy shit that they've done and the socials and all that. And that's the only way. And my favorite tool for the on-page side of it is called Page Optimizer Pro, right?
Pop is amazing. Kyle's got that dialed in.
It's fucking brilliant. I remember testing it years back, and it was like, oh my God, this is... And it's still just as relevant now as it was years ago when I first started playing with it. And it's probably my favorite on-page SEO tool because it's the only one. In fact, we in Page Rewriter, we've included a basic version where you can do a report and it'll go to the first page of Google, pull back all sites, and it'll do a very basic version of the report. It's nowhere near as good as what Kyle's does. But then as soon as you start using Kyle's, and it's Page Optimizer with a Z.pro, just in case anyone wants to go and buy it. It's fucking brilliant tool. But that does what you was just talking about. That basically, it checks whether it's bold, whether it's italic, whether it's underlined. It checks all different stuff like that on the page, and it gives you all. But it does it to what you can say. Ignore this, and this site, and only use this, and this that are like yours, and then do the cross-reference and check it all out, so you can get the on-page SEO dialed into fuck. And then as soon as you start building links, you win every single time. I've done it so many times with this tool. It's like, I love it. I think it's brilliant.
It is a brilliant tool. Fantastic stuff.
It's a brilliant tool. I think it's one of the tools I've had the longest out of everything that I've had. And I forget about it sometimes, but then whenever I come up on a problem and it's like, right, how are we going to figure this out? And then I always go back to that.
Absolutely.
It's I love it. So bass guitar. Let's take you off the SEO subjects because you mentioned bass before, and we love music.
So as far as music, I initially got in on bass guitar. Still enjoy playing it. What I actually was doing throughout, like right after high school. Thought I was going to be a bass player. It's fun stuff. I actually became a frontman for a couple like hard rock and metal groups. And
so you can sing as well.
I can sing. But yeah, we ended up. My 20s were pretty much living at nightclubs, touring around, and playing music. Like that's. I was a vocalist and frontman for a band.
It sounds like loads of fun, right? But throughout my 20s, I was a wreckhead. I mean, a complete wreckhead. And you wake up every single day like, I am never doing that again. I feel like shit. And by dinner time, you're feeling a bit better. And by night time, you're back on it again, aren't you? Or did you not do that?
100%. Like, it was, I'm never doing this again. You know, Jaeger Tour comes around. We're like, all right, 5 o'clock, it's on.
Let's go.
Never doing that again. All right, it's only Tuesday. We still got the rest of the week to go, guys.
Yeah, mate. The life's out. It sounds amazing from the outside, but from the inside of living that life, it's hard.
It is really hard, and you know the worst part about it, like the story. You have some amazing stories. Like there's some really like. I've seen some things. Give us an example. We'll just say that.
Give us an example. Come on.
We did a show that was emceed by a zombie.
Okay.
And at the show, there was also a live flesh suspension.
What the fuck does that mean?
So they take like meat hooks, meat hooks, hook them into your back, stretch out your skin a little bit, and then you suspend from it.
Oh, fuck that, man. I remember getting my ear pierced when I was younger. That was bad enough.
Yeah.
And they hang them
like hang up because it's zero gravity. Like your back person. Skin. What's that?
A real live person actually lets them do that shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In a club.
Yeah.
Oh,
and they're swinging around like Cirque du Soleil type stuff. We showed up at the show. And we're like, what the fuck did we just get into, guys?
Imagine they go on a dating app, right, and they meet a girl, right?
Right.
It's like,
we're going to go to the show tonight.
Yeah, what do you do for a living? It's like, come and see. And it's like, mate, they're gone. I tell you, they're floating fucking crazy. That's.
Yeah, and so the zombie, he does a thing. He's emceed a few shows that I've been to, but very flamboyantly gay zombie. Really cool, funny dude. But his whole thing is kind of like a throwback to like Fangoria or like the really like brutal type magazines, right? Where it's like he does like exceptional like Hollywood style makeup. But if he likes your band, one of the things that he would do is he would kill you. Because, you know, he doesn't want you competing with his band, you know, that was a zombie band as well. So his whole thing is he would kill, and he's gone through and done a bunch of bigger name acts, not just like local stuff, but he emceed one of our a few of our shows, killed off a couple buddies, their bands, and it's just.
You mean killed them off?
So he sets up a photo shoot, sets up a photo shoot where he like murders your band.
But it doesn't really matter. So what does he? What do you mean? I don't
It's
get
like
it.
a photo shoot. It would be a photo shoot where it's like, again, kind of a throwback to like Fangoria or like really kind of like horrific, like horror movies or, like kind of grotesque kind of stuff or whatever. But like he would like have your band and be walking down the street. He'd set up the whole storyboard and he's like, okay, well, Mike's walking down the street. He's the guitar player for this band and I'm going to hit him with a car. Right. And so then he takes, photo, like does your makeup as if you were hit by a car.
He sounds cool as fuck, man. I would love to meet him.
Yeah. Maris the Great.
And that's what he does for a living. He's like, he does that crazy shit like that.
Makeup
fucking brilliant,
and
that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. Like I said, he's killed off several big bands, but Maris the Great is his name.
Maris the Great is his name.
Yeah,
I will definitely look up that guy because that's what a
and
fucking madman.
I will mention that it is not for the squeamish of stomach. It's pretty brutal looking. Like it looks like a murder scene, right?
Like a proper murder scene.
But like one of the bands he murdered, a buddy of mine, he basically like sucked this dude's intestines out from his ass. Is what it looked like. Because he's a zombie, right? Yeah. And
fucking
so,
hell.
Yeah, like different stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty brutal, but and that was probably one of the like craziest shows that we've been to. And then when you talk to him, he's like he stays in character, but I'm like, when you talk to him, he's like just probably one of the nicest dudes ever that you could possibly meet. Just like an incredible gig he's got going on. Beyond that,
Marilyn Manson, don't they? They say he's a proper nice guy in real life.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a lot of it's just shock value, right? So, that was probably one of the more extreme stories that I've had on the road. We ended up playing probably a more modest, like tame one. We ended up doing a West Coast tour at one point and slept in obviously the traditional like slept in a van for 8 weeks on end. And like slept in a parking garage on Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood. Right, rolled into town. I'm like, we don't got a place to stay. We're broke musicians. Let's go do this, and then ended up playing like the Viper Room. So pretty cool.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So you turned up. You still kept in the van though, didn't you? After you played the Viper Room.
Oh yeah, like you're broke as hell. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's like you all meet birds while you're there, or girls, or you can't call them birds anymore.
Yeah.
You meet girls while you're there, and then they're all like, "Fuck yeah, we'll come back to yours." You're like, sliding the side door back,
right over there.
We won't all fit, but we'll try.
Yeah, it's
that what you just said. That Maris guy though, yeah, that got me thinking because I always say to my lad, don't stress out about school, don't stress out about learning, don't stress out about everything else. I always say to him, whatever you do in life, if you chase what you love.
Absolutely.
And you just forget about everything else and keep chasing and doing what you love every day. Eventually, you'll figure out how to turn it into cash. And he's a great example of somebody that, like, imagine growing up through school and to his parents, and he says, "Nah, do you know what I want to do? I want
to do horror makeup, right?
Yeah, and I want to kill off bands, and and people are like, you're a fucking idiot. That's worse than saying I want to be a famous musician because there's no way it's ever going to work.
Right?
He obviously stuck with it, kept doing it. People must have thought this guy's fucking a lunatic, and he's made it work. And it just shows you can do anything.
He's renowned like by a lot. And I mean, it's like one of the biggest honors to be like, yeah, he killed off my band. He thought we were that good, that he did the whole makeup and all that. Like it's definitely pretty cool. And if there's a will, there's a way, right?
Yeah, man. And it does. It sounds like it's great because people love to be honored in any way. And to get it to the point where it's like, I'm going to murder you, and that's classed as an honor.
Right?
It's fucking awesome, isn't it? And you think of it like that. It's like, wow, he really did get him to do it, which is cool as shit. Brian, I'm looking at the time. I've just looked. I promised I'd keep you on for an hour, mate, and not longer. And I know I could sit and talk to you all day about, especially SEO and everything, because we both love it. But I mean, if any of our guys want to reach out, they want to work with you, they want to get involved in anything you do, I honestly do think you should do
that'd be cool.
a training, because you're one of the most knowledgeable SEO guys I've ever met, and you don't talk shit. You actually you preach what you do, rather than some of these guys they talk, but they've not done anything. And they still don't, which means literally everyone's running around trying to do things that don't work. But anyway, I'll shut up. You don't have life for waffling. If people want to get hold of you, where do they go? How do they do it? My girls will stick something down the bottom so that anybody watching the video can get in touch with you, or anybody on the podcast.
Yeah, so
hear you say
so
it.
just reach out to me on Facebook. That's probably the best way to do that. That or Twitter. Like those are probably the two best ones. Twitter, my handle is Kato B Kato. And
Kato B Kato.
Yeah, so last name, first initial, last name, and then my Facebook page, I believe it's just my full name, or actually it's
Facebook
last
page.
name dot first name, something like that.
You got a website?
Yeah, so it's fusionvine.com. That's FUSIONVINE.com. So,
and if they reach out to you on there for SEO services and shit like that, obviously they can.
Yep, absolutely. We do currently we are doing like kind of the one-on-one consulting. I love the idea of doing more of like that kind of like group kind of a thing, because again, it can make it more affordable for a lot of people, and it just.
Do you know what I love about the group, right? If you work one-on-one, because I think if you go over to my coaching page, I don't even know where it is anymore, but I charge $1,000 an hour, right? Yep. I charge £1,000 an hour for one-on-one coaching. And you know what I find? The exact same, right? If I do one-on-one coaching with somebody, they still don't fucking do it, right? And I'm not bothered. If they don't do it, the next time I speak to them, it's like, okay, well, you pay me £1,000 an hour to be sat here. I'm giving you the advice, telling you what to do, telling you how to progress it. And then I'm talking to you the next time, you're not done fuck all. It's totally up to you. So the message this time is the same as the message last time. You can go away. But what I find is if you do group coaching, okay, the lazy people are paying for the proactive people. So the proactive people are not spending $1,000 an hour to be with you. They might be spending $99 a month, right?
Sure.
And you could have 50 people all spending $99 a month, and maybe 3 or 5 of those people will actually take action. So what happens is all the lazy people that are paying $99 a month, and then they go around and they say, oh, I never got nothing from these things. Well, you didn't fucking do what I told you. But the 5 people that actually take action have not had to spend $1,000 an hour to get you in a room to talk to them, because everybody else, the guys that are not doing it, are paying for them. So it actually makes you feel like I get a lot of guys that'll say, it does me head in doing coaching, because 90% of the people in the room don't do anything. They just sit there and they want to chat. And it's like, but they're paying for the people that are actually going away and doing what you need, what needs to be done. So everybody else is chipping in so that they can finance these other 4 or 5 people out of the group of 50 becoming successful. So don't worry about the ones that are not doing it. Realize what a good deal the guys that are doing it are getting. And it makes you feel so much better about charging people to get them in a room to do it, and not charging someone, because it is depressing. If you've charged someone $1,000 to go in a room and talk to you for an hour, and then the next time you meet them, they've not done any of it, it's depressing. It's like, even though you've been paid $1,000 for being there, you still feel like I've just wasted a fucking hour with you. I shouldn't have bothered. Even if you do it for free. That's why I stopped doing it for free, because years ago, any of my clients had messaged me and I'd be like, right, I'll try and fit you in, and I ended up working 15, 16-hour days. But what happened was 90% of them weren't doing anything. And the odd few that were, but it still means you're working 16-hour days, wasting your time all day, every single day. And eventually it gets to the point where it's like, I just can't physically keep doing this, because it's soul destroying, depressing, because they don't do it. And then when you start charging, at least it's like, well, I might have wasted an hour, but I got paid for it. So
that's just it. Exactly. There's something to be said for, number 1, burnout, and number 2, just, getting paid for burnout.
Yes. Getting paid for burnout's always better. And then the group coaching model, I love the group model, because that means, like, I do a boot camp most years. I've not done one yet this year, most years. And what I'll do is I'll let 10 or 20 people in.
Yep.
And I don't charge a lot. It's about $2,000 or something, right? But I'll let 10 to 20 people in, charge $2,000. I meet them maybe once a month. I think it is, can't even remember. I meet them once a month, or for about 10 months. And what you'll find is 2 or 3 people will be very successful from it, and the rest won't be super successful. But then once they've paid for a boot camp, I let all the other people into the boot camp who've paid in the past, but they can only come in and watch the replays and everything else. So the people who pay that year get a better service, but it's a very low percentage of people that become successful off it. But I don't let it stress me out, because I look at it exactly like that. The guys that don't turn up, the guys that don't show up, and the guys that don't, or girls that don't, or or bit of both. It depends if they fucking want to be classed as a girl or a boy these days. You can't
Sure.
say men or women. And what I'll find is the lazy people pay for the proactive people, the people that are actually going to put the effort in. It's a much better way of doing it.
Well, one of the last boot camps you did was the hybrid rank and rent, correct?
No, I did a Mike Martin Bootcamp 2022. I've not done one in 2023.
Okay. Any plans for doing 2023? We'll turn the tables a little bit here. I'm going to interview you. Any plans on doing something in 2023, though?
Me, no. I don't know. I've got that much on at the minute. It's probably going to be next year when I can do another bootcamp. I am so busy all the time. But I like doing the bootcamps because I don't do it for the money. I do it because what will happen is they pay up front. I don't bother doing all the monthly stuff. And I have got a guy that I'm meant to be doing one with, but I think my girls back and forth have been struggling to get hold of him on a regular basis. So I'm like, do I bother if it's hard to get hold of somebody? If I do another boot camp, it'll probably be early 2024. But I only do it because I know a few people are going to become successful out of it. And it's better than charging those two people, the couple of people that's going to be successful, 10 grand each or 20 grand each or whatever it works out at. Sure. It normally cost them to get there. So yeah, that's thingy. Right, it's an hour and 10 minutes. I promised you an hour, so I really apologise, but thank you very much for coming on, buddy. As he said before, he has got a website. I've got it written down over here. It's fusionvine.com. So get your asses over to Fusion Vine. Give Brian a message if you want to speak to him, if you want to work with him. Very, very, very knowledgeable. First time I spoke to you, I didn't want to let you off the call. So hence why I've asked you to come on here, mate, because I know everything you say either works or you won't say it, which is cool. And I just want to say thank you very much. And cheers very much, Paul. And everybody, we will see you next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.